Three generations of Senator Obama's fathers were either born here, buried here, or married here. Well, I bought the house about 4 years ago, and it was interesting because I had called the realtor. I found the house online. I was living in Noblesville at the time, and I wanted to kind of move out in the country and have a bigger house, and I restore homes and businesses for a living. When I started doing the destruction of things in here, people were stopping by and saying they had a story about the house. They knew the Dunham family, and they knew about Riley Dunham, who was a representative of Hamilton County and Tipton County in the Indiana General Assembly, and that he was a pretty important guy. And everybody had a story about this house, so on the off times when I was working on it, I was doing research on the Dunhams, and up in about maybe 6 months to a year ago, I was in the library, and someone came up to me and said, someone called and they were doing research on presidential candidates' family trees, and we found that one of them runs through the land, and the family that owns the house used to own the house, or built your house. And my first thought was maybe it's John McCain, maybe it's Hillary Clinton. They said, no, it's Barack Obama. The first Dunham to come to Indiana here specifically was a guy named Jacob Dunham. And he came back in the 1840s when all this was Miami Indian Reservation and so forth. And he's buried out here at the Kempton Cemetery. That's Senator Obama's fourth great grandfather, direct descent. He had a son by the name of Jacob Mackey Dunham, who was married in Tipton County and took this land over that the house is built on about 1856. Jacob Mackey decided that he was going to move on to Oklahoma, I believe at the time, and he had a son, Jacob William Dunham, who later moved to Kansas, who was actually born here in Kempton, I believe 1863. He moved on to Kansas, and instead of leaving this land behind or selling it to a stranger or someone they didn't know, they kept it in the family by selling it to Riley Dunham, who was a member of their family. Riley wound up building this house, and he was the Democrat in the Indiana General Assembly. I was working one day, and I have this habit of leaving the front door open because it just kind of airs the house out, and I'm throwing things out the front door just to get them out of my way. And a lady came to the door and introduced herself, and she said, "This is just a great old house. I used to come here when I was a little girl." She was probably in her mid-80s or so, and she said, "I spent the night here, and Dr. Dunham was my doctor, and he delivered me, and all that kind of thing." And I said, "Well, I never heard about Dr. Dunham." And she said, "Oh yeah, there were two of them. There was Wilbur Dunham and there was Grover Dunham." And she said, now Grover Dunham, his name was Grover Cleveland Dunham. And I said, "Well, that's interesting. He must have been named after the president." She said, "Oh, absolutely, and he should have been because President Grover Cleveland spent the night in this house or visited this house and knew Riley Dunham pretty well, from what we understand. That's always been passed down." And I've talked to some family members and some secretaries and people that worked for Dr. Dunham. They said, "Oh, that was very well known for years and years and years," as if it was just normal conversation. And somewhere, and if anybody could ever find it, that'd be great. Allegedly, there's a picture of Grover Cleveland sitting on my front porch. And if anybody can find that, I'd love to have a copy of that. So that is what the local legend is, that there's already been a president that has passed through here, with Riley Dunham being a Democrat in the General Assembly. Maybe there was something with that because Cleveland was beaten by and then turned around and defeated President Harrison from Indiana. So maybe Riley had some work to do with that.